It was actually Craigslist that we found an ad here in Maine for this couple who wanted to rent a piece of land.
One thing I wish we knew is that moving it isn't as easy or cheap as we thought it would be. It's been really helpful for us to have a small space.
There's going to be a lot of hurdles and a lot of jumps and a lot of hoops you got to go through, but it's always a great learning experience, and there's always an end in mind.
Major cons was some of the restrictions on making sure we're going to be okay having the tiny home.
Hello, my name is Grace.
And my name is Ryan.
And we've been living in a tiny house for almost 3 years now. We lived in Massachusetts for a few years, and we just moved to New York a few months ago in the Hudson Valley.
So our tiny house is 276 square feet. The exterior dimensions are 13.5 feet tall, 8.5 feet wide, and without the hitch, we're 25 feet long, 29 with the hitch.
Yeah, so we have really high ceilings inside, which is really nice. Really big windows as well. We have a window that's 8 by 8, a picture window.
The ceiling inside is about 11 feet high. And in the area that we're in now, the underneath the sleeping loft, it's 6 feet 5 inches here, and the sleeping loft is 5 feet tall. So plenty of room everywhere.
Originally in Massachusetts, we found land on Craigslist. We just did a search and found someone who was looking for a tiny house in the back of their property, basically. And we lived there for a few years, and it was awesome. And then our spot in New York, we found it through family friends.
And we've been here for a few months now.
Yeah. So, you know, I would suggest looking at sites like Craigslist, Facebook groups, stuff like that. There's a lot of people with a lot of land who would love to, you know, make a little money on the side, rent it out to you, and also, you know, ask family, friends, anyone who would be up for, you know, hosting you.
Hi, my name's Tim Davidson. I'm located in Sarasota, Florida. I own a property called Shellmate Island where I own 2 tiny houses, Tiffany the tiny home and a octagon home called Stanley. I've been living tiny for full-time for the past 5-6 years, and then part-time for the last year or 2. Tiffany the tiny home is 13.5 feet tall, 8 feet wide, and 24 feet long. Weighs about roughly around 15,000 pounds and sits on a triple axle trailer. It does have a compost toilet and gas for hot water, propane, things like that. It is a bungalow style home. So very craftsman-y style, as you can see behind me. A lot of hand details, whether it's chevron symbols or the stained glass on the front and top windows, as well as the bathroom. So I found Shellmate Island on Zillow, believe it or not. It was for sale for about 2.5 years at a price that was way above market. So I knocked on the owner's door and did a little research and some rough numbers and told him in order for me to actually have anything out on this property, I would need to invest a lot of money. There's no electricity, there's no water, there was no septic, so I had to figure all that out and bring that out here, as well as abide by all the permitting codes and legal ramifications for the county.
Hello everyone, my name is Chris and I'm 29 years old.
Hi everybody, my name is Carly and I'm 25 years old, and we have been living in our 8 by 26 tiny home on wheels here in Maine in the United States for about 5 months now, with our dog Bella as well.
Am I here in the background?
She's going out to the loft, it's her favorite place.
Oh yeah, for sure. The tiny home is 8 feet wide by 26 feet long, and it's 13.5 feet high total. 11.5 feet on the inside, and about 280 square feet, and it weighs, with everything in it, about 12 to 13,000 pounds.
Yep, and then in addition to the storage inside, we also built a 7x7 shed outside that we use for additional storage. And our home is all electric, so we don't have any gas, no propane, all electric home, and we're not totally off-grid. We are hardwired to an electric pole that's in our driveway. But other than that, we get our water from a locally sourced spring about 10 minutes away. And we use a Sunmar composting toilet, which is both, waterless and odorless. So when we were looking for our land for our tiny home, I used a lot of Facebook groups, tiny home Facebook groups, especially we knew we wanted to stay in New England in the East Coast, so different tiny home Facebook groups, and then we used Craigslist. And it was actually Craigslist that we found an ad here in Maine for this couple who wanted to rent a piece of land, undeveloped piece of land. So we're renting it, they own it, that they don't want to build on for a few years. And they were just really supportive and helpful with our whole tiny home journey. So I definitely would recommend Craigslist, both posting ads and looking for ads. Facebook groups are always great to connect with like-minded people.
Also, when looking for the land, some of the criteria, we knew that we wanted, a private piece of land that we could fence in for our dog Bella, and just so, we could have our own private piece of land to make it easier for our lifestyle and, setting up our own shed and water tank system and everything like that. So that definitely went into it.
Yeah, and even though there were definitely challenges with the land being totally undeveloped, we had to do a lot of work to make it livable and to make it home. We love it's surrounded by pine and birch trees, able to put in a temporary fence for our dog Bella, and we've really been able to make it our home. So we're loving it here so far.
One thing I wish we knew is that moving it isn't as easy or cheap as we thought it would be.
One of the complications is when you move it, you either have to tie everything down inside or take everything inside out. So either way, you have to box everything up, and we went with the option of taking everything out so it's not moving around as it's being towed. So you're going to need at least a staging area or space to get everything out, move the house, put everything back in. And that was, when we were moving, that was a big challenge that we faced.
Yeah, it's definitely a process to move. Yeah, and you have to have someone move the house because we don't have a vehicle ourselves, and it was just more stressful than I anticipated.
Yeah. So some of the advantages of living in the tiny house is that it forces you to be more mindful with what you have. We don't have a lot of clothes, we both used to. One of the consequential challenges of that is you don't have a lot of space for things, so we're thinking about getting, as an example, an air fryer, and my question is, where are we going to put it? So that's something that is always the balance. It's nice having less, but you have to find space for everything. Yeah,
it's definitely a blessing and a curse, but generally it's been really helpful for us to have a small space because we can't go crazy and we have to be really mindful, which I feel like helps us out in the long run, even though it can be difficult with those little purchases here and there.
Another advantage is that you end up being outside more. We have 2 dogs, so we are outside a lot more. We don't have a fenced-in area for them to be, so we have to walk them more. So that's really nice, especially during the summer, and we actually use our outside space. We'll sit outside, we'll do work. One of the consequential disadvantages of that is when it's winter, like it's getting to be now, and it's cold outside and you have to go outside more, you have to bundle up more, it takes a little bit of time. To go with that, another disadvantage would be that you tend to track things in, just because for us at least, our front door area is next to our kitchen. We have to clean that area more, but an advantage of that is that our house is clean because we're cleaning it all the time.
Yeah, we have to vacuum pretty much every day because stuff gets tracked in, the dogs track stuff in. Because it's such a small space, it gets dirty really easily. Another advantage, I would say, it is cheaper for us to live here.
It's a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah, we're able to save a lot of money living in this tiny house, so that's been great.
It's cheaper for us to be in the tiny house, paying that off and paying rent, than to have an apartment, and then that wouldn't be something that's ours.
Some of the minor cons of living in a tiny home is just that we have to clean it a lot more. So because we have Bella, our Brittany Spaniel, and she's outside all the time, she has a really big area she can run around. She just tracks in, you know, a lot of dirt and mud and hair and grass and things like that. So I'm vacuuming every day, but it also just doesn't take very long. It's a really quick and easy cleaning process. And then in the loft, that's another minor con, but just making the bed and being careful not to bump your head can be a bit difficult. But again, those are fairly minor cons.
Yep, and a couple major cons was back to the beginning of the process. Some of the restrictions on making sure we're going to be okay having the tiny home on a piece of land in the town that we're in Maine. So we had to go through some paperwork on that and just getting some approvals, and also we had to have a gray water system installed also to be here. So just doing your research on the town or wherever you find land to put a tiny home, just seeing how friendly they are. I know here in Maine we have a lot of great laws that are supportive to tiny homes, but just making sure that you do your research on wherever you find land for yourself.
Right, so we're hoping that that major con, you know, in time as people in states accept tiny homes more, that won't be a con for tiny home owners, and there won't be as many obstacles for people who want to live the lifestyle.
A couple things I wish I knew before I built a tiny house was a little bit more on finding contractors and how to navigate that contract world, as far as whether it's framers or concrete or people of that nature. I think the best advice I can give somebody is to dive into that, as well as just dive headfirst into it in order to learn on your own. There's going to be a lot of hurdles and a lot of jumps and a lot of hoops you got to go through, but it's always a great learning experience, and there's always an end in mind. My top 5 advantages would be that I'm able to pay it off faster than a traditional home. I'm able to utilize it in different ways that I choose, whether it be rentals or vacation homes, or being able to move it. I think another advantage is being able to slim down my lifestyle and really focus on what I find most important in my life. It's really adjust the mindset and lessons that I've learned throughout my life in order to become the person that I am today. The challenges I would say with tiny house living would be finding a place to put it. I think that area is growing. I still think it's hard to find that, as well as transporting. I think a lot of people think transporting a tiny house is pretty easy, and although some may be and some but most are not. So the idea of just traveling non-stop with them is a little bit more unrealistic, and the weight of the home, especially with everything in the new tiny houses that they're packing into it, is a disadvantage. What are some must-haves in the tiny house? I need a nice big fridge. It is an apartment style fridge, but it is more refrigerator space than freezer space. I think a gas oven and stovetop is huge for me. I'm not a huge cook, but I do like cooking with gas. As well as, I think must-have is an air fryer. I think that being able to have something that can be small and compact and utilize in a small space is huge.
Some of the really awesome pros or advantages of living in a tiny home is that it's definitely lower cost living. So we were in a place where we didn't want to rent anymore because, you know, we were kind of throwing away our money in that way, but, you know, we weren't ready to buy a home, especially with the state of the housing market here in the US and prices skyrocketing, and, you know, didn't want to commit to a 30 or 40-year mortgage. So we're investing in something that we own. And then also just you know, the utilities are very, very affordable. We're only paying electric and internet. You know, our water's free. We're using a lot less water. So yeah, lower cost, like monthly living in general. And then of course, just, you know, living more sustainably. I mean, this lifestyle is a lot more environmentally friendly. And then also just only buying or having the stuff that we need. We're not, you know, surrounded by unnecessary clutter or unnecessary material items. And instead of spending that money on stuff, we can spend that money on experiences and doing things that, you know, we are really adventurous and we love to travel and try new things. So, yeah, just almost feeling like we don't have that burden anymore that we were having before.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of pros that even I didn't realize that were going to happen. For example, our internet that we have is Starlink internet.
We just got Starlink.
And I didn't really know much about it, but it's a great internet for, you know, people that are in more rural areas. And high-speed internet. It's been working really, really well. So it's just opening up, you know, new opportunities as well. You know, just I find that to be a pro for sure of this whole lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because the biggest thing people say to us, or that I hear, is, oh my gosh, I could never get rid of my stuff. I have way too much stuff. I have way too much stuff. And we definitely totally got rid of so much, donated.
Don't miss it.
Yeah, so much. And what we found is we don't miss anything. We feel like between our 8x26 home, which is like 280 square feet, and our shed, 7x7, like 49 square feet, that we have everything we need. We don't miss anything. And I think that a lot of people would surprise themselves as well.
For sure. Yeah, when it all comes down to it, there's only so much that you really need.
Yeah, and then again, I think a big thing is just another pro is just spending more time outside.
Yep.
I mean, where we live in Maine, we're, you know, on the coast, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful place to live. So we're really fortunate to be here.
Like we mentioned before, a tiny house gets dirty really easily, so a must-have would be a good vacuum.
Yes. We opted for a cordless vacuum. I would say that's also a must-have, so you're not dragging a cord all over the place. We have a staircase going up into our loft, and that would definitely start knocking plants and other things off the wall.
Yes. Another must-have is, well, for me, I think big windows. That really makes a huge difference, so it doesn't seem like you're in a little box. There's a lot of like great natural light in here. We can look outside, look at the wildlife. It's huge to have good windows. Also, our high ceilings make the house seem a lot more open.
Everyone that we've had over, just visiting, everybody that comes in is like, wow, this is actually like, it feels bigger than I thought it would, and the 11-foot ceiling is no small part of that. And also, it's a fairly open design. We don't have anything really coming into the center, I guess, throughway, causeway kind of area. So keeping that clear and open and everything staying to the walls has just been huge for that and making it seem very open. And the windows go with that too. Yeah.
And yeah, I would say a lot of must-haves also depend on, you know, the person and what's important to them as well. For stuff like us, a must-have is like heated coffee mugs because we don't have a microwave, and just having our coffee stay warm in the mornings without having to, you know, heat it up on the stove, that's huge. And it's really convenient and something that we really like. So.
And a must-have for us, again, it may be different for different people, is that we needed a house that had an actual staircase that didn't just have like a step and then an open back, because we have, well, we had one and now we have two small dogs, and so for them to be able to get up into the loft where their beds were and come down safely at night, we needed a staircase. We couldn't do that with a ladder carrying them up and down.
Yep. So
if you have animals, staircase is probably going to be a must-have. If you don't, you can do a ladder. That's up to you.
Yeah, and also a must-have was having a sleeping loft that the ceiling wasn't too low.
Yeah.
Because he's...
I didn't want to sit up in the night and hit my head.
Yeah, he's 6 feet tall, and I'm 5'2", so... yeah, he didn't want something that was really feels like you're in a
little like tiny little coffin basically, and that you sit up and you're gonna smack your head, you like get up the wrong way and you take yourself out. I couldn't have that.
Yeah.
Our home was built by Tiny Homes of Maine. They did an amazing job building it, especially for winters here in Maine, but there's still a lot you have to do to prepare as well. Our water system that we have here for running water, had to winterize it some because we're not directly hooked up to town water or anything like that. So we have a 275 gallon IBC tote that is insulated and hooked up to heated piping, which is also insulated, and then also have some heat tape in some areas to keep the pipes from freezing. Another thing is having a backup generator for power, for electric. Everything in the home is electric, so if the power goes out, we have a backup generator that's hooked up to our direct connection at the telephone pole at the end of the driveway.
Yeah, so that was kind of a safety consideration for us, especially going into winter. And because we use a split AC heat unit, again, we're just totally dependent on electricity. So we wanted to make sure that we had a generator, which a lot of people do on the coast, especially because it gets just really windy and it happens where you lose power. We wanted to make sure that, you know, if the power went out in the middle of the night and it was negative something degrees, that we'd have heat. And then, yeah, a major thing we had to do to winterize, in addition to winterizing our water system, is skirting the home. So that's kind of one of the first things that you have to do, because there's such a big gap between the ground and, you know, where the home actually starts, because of the wheels. Yeah, we used plywood that we painted black and cut ourselves, and yeah, skirted all along the exterior of the home right at the bottom. And then we have a pipe that's leading to our underground gray water system that a land surveyor designed and a contractor installed, and we also insulated that piping as well. So there are definitely things that you have to do to prepare for winter, but our AC heat unit, especially the heat, works really well. Super cozy in here, and Tiny Homes of Maine really built the home so well insulated. I mean, it was just built in 2021, so everything's brand new, and so far we've had some cold nights, some windy nights, and we have been cozy and warm in our tiny home.
And for space and storage, you definitely have to get a little bit creative. In some areas, you know, we definitely use every nook and cranny so far for a lot of our stuff that we have inside, but we also have a shed outside for, you know, outdoor stuff. We have a snow blower, lawnmower, everything like that. So that helps as well. But, you know, having the cabinets under the stairs, you know, just getting creative, whatever style of tiny home you do have. And then, you know, in the closet we have multiple different racks, so we can try to maximize the space that we have in there. Yeah, just constantly thinking about where something can go, you know, utilizing wall space when we normally wouldn't. So
yeah, and I think because the ceilings are so tall too, utilizing just the height that you have in the home. And then also it's just taken a few months for us. We've switched around things, moved things about, just finding out what works best for us. But definitely every amount of space has a purpose. And also, you know, we didn't want it to feel super cluttered either, which is funny living in a 280 square foot space.
I think it would be hard to do that, but I think we've pretty much worked it out at this point, you know. Like she was saying, we switched, you know, a lot of things around, and at this point have a good place for everything. At least we think so. Yeah,
without having too much hanging up, or, you know, still making sure we're not cluttering the small space that we're in. But another, you know, major thing for us, and something that I tell people, is it doesn't feel claustrophobic, you know, because of the ceilings and the just the beauty of the home and the way it's built. It truly doesn't feel claustrophobic, and just it being us two. But also because we just live on such a big, you know, the clearing we have is about 1 acre, and we're just really fortunate to be on this land. And because it's so private, we feel like, you know, not only do we have indoor space, but we have a big outdoor space that's all our own.
Yep.
So, you know, I think for us, you know, neither of us wanted to be in the city, or that never attracted either of us. So we're, you know, we're really happy to be surrounded by nature and to have that privacy.
Tiffany's made entirely out of wood. I think wood holds up very well, and especially in the Florida condition. It's easy to replace. And as far as a material that I love about my house is that it's all spray foam insulation. So the walls, the ceilings, the floor, everything's spray foamed insulation, kind of like a cooler. So it keeps the house really warm at night and cool during the day, especially down here in Florida. I don't find the limited storage space difficult. I find it more of a challenge as far as bringing unnecessary objects in my life and unnecessary materials that might be impulse buys. Everything I bring into the home has to have a rhyme or reason, and usually if I bring something in, I have to take something out. Even though these houses are small, they bring out huge opportunities for you, whether it's financially or progression within your own life and personal self-growth and development. I can say that these tiny houses on Shellmaid Island have really changed my life and changed who I am, and helped me refocus on myself and also what I find important. And I wouldn't be the person I am today without these homes, and I am eternally grateful for the decision I made to go tiny.
I would say just consider stairs versus a ladder for your loft, sleeping area, whatever. Just because in the mornings when you're tired, or, you know, going to the bathroom at night or something, if, you know, you're really gonna want to be going down a ladder at night. So that's something I would think about.
Yeah, the other thing just to think about is when you're parking it, your like fire escape window kind of thing, especially if your sleeping loft is on the 2nd floor, is if you had to jump, what are you landing on? It's something to keep in mind.
Something else, which is thinking about the humidity in the air, you know, because tiny houses can get humid really fast because it's a small space, you're cooking in here, whatever.
If you have good insulation, you're not going to vent the humidity. An issue that we ran into is we didn't have a dehumidifier at first, and then we checked underneath the couch when it became winter, and we have propane heat, so it's blowing humid hot air around, but it got very humid in here, and we actually had some mold that was growing, a good amount of mold that was growing on the floor because it was so humid, and the water just condensated in areas because it was so cold outside versus inside. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as well, is what you're breathing.
Yeah, making sure that your air is clean and stuff as well. So we bought our house from a company. We chose a model that they had, so we didn't make any specific choices with the building materials. We did have some options, you know, what kind of door we wanted.
If we wanted the walls painted, not painted, sealed versus not sealed. That we went with sealed pine. And we went with the sealed one because we didn't plan on painting it or anything of that sort. We wanted the natural wood.
Yeah, we also opted for a onboard water tank. So that has been helpful because previously in our old parking spot we didn't have water in the winter. So we would bring in all our water, we would fill up the tank and use that.
The difficulty of having limited storage space. When we first moved in, we had done a bunch of downsizing going into this. We kind of knew, or we definitely knew what we were getting into. And then there was a period of time where we weren't living in the tiny house before we moved to New York. And while we weren't in the tiny house, we didn't realize it, but we kind of accumulated things because we weren't in our spot. We didn't think that we were accumulating anything, but now we've moved back in and we're kind of a little shorter on the amount of storage space that we have. We have a storage loft that is not as open as we would like, so we have to go through that. So that's definitely something that we're working through now.
We just have to be really conscious of our space all the time. If we notice we're accumulating more things, we have to go through them. So yeah, it can be difficult, but it's also a challenge that is kind of fun.
One thing that we did have to adjust for was, as Grace mentioned, we didn't have, in our first spot, we didn't have water during the winter, so we would have to disconnect our hose, air it out, make sure, and then fill up the water tank before that all got shut off, and then bring in the water. We'd have to, during the winter, our gray water out line, we'd have to check that, make sure that wasn't freezing. We probably didn't need to, but during the winter, so we have a flat roof, and I roof raked to make sure that that was clear.
Yeah, we also have to make sure our house doesn't get too humid in the winter because all the windows are shut.
And the propane heat keeps it very humid.
Yep, so we have to make sure we have our dehumidifier always running and we're changing that out.
During the summer, one thing that we do have to keep in mind is, so none of our windows are all sliding, and because we don't have any awnings or anything, we have to keep in mind whenever it's raining, we kind of have to close our windows. We can't really keep them open because water will get in.
Living here has been fun.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
It's been a lot of fun. We love it. Obviously, there are some challenges and stuff to deal with, and yeah, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
Again, my name's Tim Davidson. I'm located in Sarasota, Florida, on a property called Shellmade Island. You can follow us on Instagram or Facebook, as well as our website, tiffanythetinyhome.com, and open to any questions or information you need to help with your tiny journey.
And just want to say thank you to Alternative House for their platform and reaching out to us and allowing us to express how it is living in a tiny home, and hopefully spreading great information on how to do it so that other people can do it easier.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be in this video, and also the opportunity to be to have a tiny home tour of our home on your amazing page. I love everything that you're doing, and you know, we just want to continue to share our story to just help others, and others who are thinking about going tiny but just may feel discouraged or overwhelmed. Just know it is possible, and you know, if you want it enough, you can make it happen. And
step by step.
Yeah, take it step by step. And I am on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I stream on Twitch, and I absolutely anytime would love if anyone reached out to me and would offer any sort of help or advice. Yeah, because we want to make it easier for others who want to go tiny as well. So thank you so much for watching. Go tiny!